For 17th, seems like Tuesday. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Calimesa City Council. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. And Darlene, if you could please do the roll call.
Councilmember Cundiff.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Manley.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cervantes.
Here.
Mayor Molina.
Here. And for the record, let us show that City Manager Colbo's here, City Attorney Flower, City Clerk Gertis, Finance Director Reed, Planning Director Lucia, Public Works Director Shakir, City Engineer Thornton, Fire Deputy Chief Shaw, and Sheriff Captain Northrup. And if I'd like to ask Fire Deputy Chief Shaw if he'd lead us in the pledge tonight.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, this brings us to communications from the public, and I have two here. Donna, would you like to step up?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my goodness. I'm Donna Johnson. I live in the Californian. I'm sure you recognize me by now. I just have a statement to make. I'm speaking on behalf of many senior residents in Calimesa and beyond who are deeply troubled by recent public statements made by Mayor Molina and Deputy City Manager Darlene Gertis. Mayor Molina, during the last City Council meeting on October 3rd, stated that the mobile home parks needed special attention because the seniors do not lock their cars in their driveways. This statement was recorded for the public's viewing, inviting any would-be thieves to come into the mobile home parks for readily accessible vehicles, thus putting we seniors directly in harm's way. This statement undermines our dignity and was disparaging, demeaning, and untrue. The following verbiage came from Darlene Gertis, Deputy City Manager, City Clerk, Rent Administrator with City Manager Will Colball as the moderator. This was also recorded for the public. These are quotes recorded. The residents need to understand, too, that they do live on somebody else's property and they enjoy the amenities on those in those parks that they live in, and you know when they move in, they know that they're sitting on somebody else's property. So they just need to understand. I think the important thing is to understand that you know he's running a business. It's his business. You live on that property. And so there are going to be some things that probably you're going to have to help with or take care of because those amenities are there for them and they enjoy them. Let's put it that way. You know, a pool, a clubhouse, you know, a place to go play cards, a place to meet with their neighbors. So, you know, there is a sense of responsibility on the park resident as well as when it comes to those amenities. Okay, so this is Darlene Gertis's biased opinion, which demeaned, disparages, and harms senior self-esteem, and giving park owners and managers more leverage and confidence. Her words were not true. They are not true. Here are the rules and regulations. We sign a lease agreement. If we break one of these rules, we have broken our lease. Okay. I know these rules by heart. And we have 17 cameras in the park that monitor us. The managers drive around on cart with cameras and they monitor us. If we try to use the clubhouse, that is monitored also with audio and video. If you inadvertently make a mistake, they bring pictures to you and show you what mistake that you made. So I want to ask you, how many of you could live like this? How many of you are willing to live like this 24/7?
Thank you, Donna. Heather Carruthers.
I could compound on that all day, but I won't. I'm speaking tonight because the City of Calamasa has developed a pattern of conduct that undermines transparency, public trust, and fair competition, and it needs to be addressed immediately. First, the city's claim it can not hire employees but can hire a third-party contractor. That is legally false. Under California Government Code 36506, this council has full authority to hire and supervise employees. Under 34856, the city manager has authority to hire staff. And 37103 makes contracting optional, not a replacement for hiring, like this four-leaf thing you're trying to do. So when Will says we just can't hire people, that's not a legal restriction, it's a choice that avoids accountability and shifts taxpayer money to outside consultants who are not answerable to the public. Second, the city has repeatedly blocked qualified bidders, refused to open competitive bids, and steered work to preferred contractors. That is the textbook definition of contract steering, and when a public agency interferes with open bidding, rejects qualified low bidders without justification, or narrows competition to favor selected vendors, it raises serious concerns of bid rigging, malfeasance, and violation of competitive contracting requirements. Competitive bidding exists to protect taxpayers. When you bypass it, you are not protecting the public, you are costing the public money. Third, the handling of the Bank of America building acquisition is a clear failure of transparency. For more than 2 years, the city has engaged in closed-door efforts to acquire that property without proper public disclosure, justification, or open session discussion. While Government Code 54956.8 allows closed session negotiation of price and terms, it does not allow secrecy regarding the existence or purpose of a major acquisition. The Brown Act's intent in 54950 is clear, that people do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. When you combine these three patterns, false statements about hiring authorities, steering contracts away from open competition, and concealing the B of A property acquisition, the result is a city government that is no longer functioning transparently or in the public interest. The citizens of this city request a full public disclosure of all actions, communications, negotiations, and financial analysis related to the Bank of America property. A complete review of all bidding and contracting practices, including rejected qualified bidders and instances where competitive bidding was bypassed without lawful justification. A halt to any further contracting or property acquisition until you all have addressed these issues openly and lawfully. Let me be clear, I am filing formal complaints with the California Attorney General's Office, the Riverside County District Attorney's Public Integrity Unit, the Fair Political Practices Commission, the California State Auditor, and the Riverside County Civil Grand Jury. Each of these bodies has jurisdiction over unlawful contracting practices, Brown Act violations, conflict of interest, and misuse of public funds, which you all continue to do. It is dumbfounding. Calamasa residents deserve honesty, transparency, and lawful governance, not excuses, secrecy, and hand-picked contractors. You all are scandalous.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I know we don't have.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I'd just like to interrupt for 1 minute.
okay.
There was just a couple things that were said that were just factually inaccurate. So I love when the public comes and speaks. We welcome that. But factually, we have not been in contract or looking to purchase a building at the B of A for 2 years. That's false. Whenever we bring in contracts, there's a fair practice that's followed by the city manager, everyone else. So it's just blatantly false.
Thank you for your comment.
Mayor, I want to speak in behalf of our city. Thank you so much for that information. However, I'm not going to allow anybody to talk negatively about our city, our directors, and anybody here within our staff, and including our city manager. I know we have disagreements, but it's very wrong when you're bringing up false accusations, and I will not allow that here within our city council. Our city has been very transparent, financing numbers as well. They've been very transparent. I look at every single thing, and they're very transparent as well too. I always follow up our city manager, and our city manager is always transparent with accurate information. And I will let speak in behalf of that because it is not okay for anybody to be speaking negatively, even including our council members and our colleagues.
Thank you, Edgar. I just wanted to say, we're not obligated to respond because it's not agendized. But I just want to clarify my statement from the last council meeting. As, when I first came to the city, I was on citizen patrol. That was my way of getting to know the boundaries of the city. And when I did that job, I had that job for a couple of years, there were several instances where people were getting burglarized because they had faith in other people, and they'd leave their cars unlocked and they'd suffer losses, either people entering their homes or their cars being stolen. So my comments were merely as a reminder to be cognizant of those opportunities of other people and just to be safe, even on your own property or in the case of mobile parks, another owner's property. But still, it's your property that needs to be protected. That was my comment. So just wanted to correct that statement. Thank you. Okay, without any further comment, we'll move to approval of the agenda, consent calendar, and waiver of full reading of ordinances. This is also an opportunity if any council persons want to remove anything from the consent calendar before we vote on it. And if not, I'll take a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the agenda consent calendar and a waiver of full reading of ordinances.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. That takes us to our Calamasa Chamber of Commerce report. Lion Tony Phillips.
Well, thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak tonight to share with you on what's happening with the Calamasa Chamber of Commerce. As you're aware, the Christmas parade and Christmas Village, the logistics planning is ongoing. We currently have 17 groups signed up to participate. That was as of Friday. Friday morning, I spent on the phone calling several of the previous participants, and then Saturday emailed every participant that has been in the parade in the past with additional information. So phone calls were made to past participants, and over the weekend emails were sent. And as a reminder, it is scheduled for December 6th in the evening. We hope not to be rained out. That's only happened one time. But after this weekend's rain, it was quite a good weekend. We need the rain. Yes, we won't say we won't. The chamber is currently without any administrative staff. Interviews for new employees are underway, and we hope to fill the position soon. The Chamber's Board of Directors meet tomorrow morning at 8:30 at the Chamber office, and plans are taking place with our Events Committee for the 2026 Installation Dinner, January 29th. All of you put that on your calendar. At the Plantation on the Lakes Community Room. And more information will be provided in the next few weeks. Membership continues to grow, although I do not have the numbers for this month. I was unable to get that off the computer. So, as you can see, these comments were written by Tony and not provided by an administrative staff.
You did very well.
Thank you. Any questions about what's going on with the chamber or what's coming up?
Thank you for the information.
All right, thanks, guys. And we'll keep up the podcast. They've been great. It's fun to follow what's going on with the city.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number 10. It's a public hearing. Ordinance number 418 for Zone Text Amendment 25-02, ZTA 25-02, an amendment to Calamasa Municipal Code, Section 18.130.070, to add in lieu fee payment as an alternative means of compliance to satisfy the city's inclusionary housing ordinance and establishment of an in lieu fee amount. Kelly Lucia will present tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public that are here with us tonight. So item number 10 is a public hearing for consideration of an inclusionary housing in lieu fee. We We have an ordinance number 418 for consideration this evening. Okay, so for a little bit of background, this ordinance was preceded by ordinance number 304, which was adopted May 2nd of 2011. That ordinance established Calamasa Municipal Code Section 18.130 for inclusionary housing. So I'd just like to note that this is an existing municipal code provision that we have. This section was enacted as a condition of HCD's approval of our fourth cycle general plan housing element. So the council may recall that we recently received certification of our sixth cycle. This was our fourth cycle from 2006 to 2014. And within that housing element cycle, the city stated that it would adopt an inclusionary housing ordinance with the goal of meeting a percentage of our low to moderate income household allocation. A temporary suspension of ordinance number 304 was put into place on May 21st of 2012, and that went for about 5 years until January of 2017 due to a quote-unquote distressed real estate market. So it was put into place 2011, and then it was kind of swiftly suspended for 5 years until 2017. So what this existing municipal code provision does is that it requires at least 5% of the total lots or units in a residential development to be offered for sale as inclusionary units restricted to owner occupancy by low-income households. So the municipal code defines a lower income household as one that earns 80% of the area median income, or AMI. According to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, the 2025 median income for a household of 4 in Riverside County is about $100,000. And as such, the municipal code defines a lower income household in 2025 as one that earns about $83,000 for a family of 4. So I like to provide that information because it might not be the income that you would expect to be a definition of within our municipal code for a lower income household. But in 2025, with inflation and so forth, a low, quote unquote, lower income household does make its way all the way up to about $83,000 a year in income. Okay, so our inclusionary housing requirement applies only to certain housing projects, not to every single one. It applies to a subdivision that results in the creation of 20 or more residential lots or units. So that is a project consisting of 20 or more for-sale dwelling units, whether that be in a multifamily development or single-family homes. And it also applies to the conversion of 20 or more rental units to condominium ownership. So basically, if a developer comes along, they have a project with 20 or more for-sale units, 5% of those have to be inclusionary at a level of 80% of the AMI. Okay, and development agreements governing Summerwin Ranch and the Mesa Verde specific plans separately establish inclusionary housing requirements within each project boundary. So that's just to say that to the extent that we have development agreements on file for our large specific plan areas, we handle inclusionary housing a little bit differently for those. Okay, so how do we comply? So you've got a project, there's 20 units, you have an inclusionary housing ordinance. How does a developer comply? So the default method of compliance is to construct the required inclusionary units within the project boundary. So within that subdivision or other qualifying housing project, they would actually construct their 5% of affordable units within the project. State law requires that we have at least one other method of compliance, and we're so nice, we have 2 existing. So there's 3 ways that folks can comply with the ordinance. Either construct the required housing on-site, they can also request it off-site, so somewhere else in the city, not within their project boundary, or 3, they can dedicate land elsewhere in the city, and there is a calculation that has to occur whereby they determine that the value of land is roughly equivalent to the cost to construct those numbers of units on site. So a lot to be said there, but again, the 3 current ways that developments can comply is construction on site, construction off site, or dedication of land. Through the various years with lots of our projects, we have been approached by the development community that's really interested in having a 4th method of compliance, and that's through payment of an in lieu fee. And so that's what is before you this evening. So ordinance 418 would modify the municipal code to add another method of compliance, and that would be to elect by right to pay an in lieu fee as described within this municipal code section. So the reason why I have that portion by right highlighted is because the developers don't have to enter into a development agreement or pay some sort of additional fee. They can just say, you know, hey, I'm obligated to provide affordable housing. I'd like to pay the in lieu fee, and they can do so by right. So I thought that was an important point to note for the council's consideration. Another kind of highlighted section I wanted to show the council is that the amount of the in lieu fee shall be calculated in a manner established by resolution by adoption of the city council. So your packet this evening does have a draft resolution with a proposed fee amount, which we'll cover in just a moment. Another important portion of this municipal code revision would be that the in lieu fee payment shall be paid concurrently with payment for a building permit for a market rate unit. So essentially, if somebody was coming in, I'll use a 20-unit subdivision as an example, and they say, I don't want to construct on-site or off-site or dedicate land, I just want to pay a fee. When they come in for each and every building permit, for those 20 units, each building permit would have an assessment for an in lieu fee associated with it, and it's based on the square footage of the market rate unit. And finally here on this slide, the housing would be required to be at a rate that's affordable for 80% of the area median income, which we discussed. So essentially, the units would need to be provided and constructed for folks that don't exceed that, that AMI limit that we discussed. Okay, final addition, touched on this a moment ago. So an inclusionary housing plan should include the total square footage of the proposed finished residential living area, and it would exclude garages. So again, when a developer comes in to pull a building permit on a market rate unit, they would have to provide the total square footage for the finished living residential area. We would exclude garages, considering a garage not a finished living area, and that would be how the inclusionary housing in lieu fee would be assessed. Okay, so there was a fee study that was done that's provided in your packet this evening. We have a representative from Placework here that will be available for any questions you may have towards the end of the presentation. But the result of the fee study was that the fee is recommended to be $3.40 per square foot of, again, that finished residential floor area. So as an example here towards the bottom of the slide, a typical roughly 2,400 square foot home, the total fee would be about $8,100. So for each market rate unit, the city would be bringing in about $8,100 as an in lieu fee. And for that example project of 20 units, it would generate about $165,000 for the city to contribute to the construction of affordable housing. And so I'm not sure that I clearly touched on that, so I'll go back just a moment. And so once we accept a fee, it kind of begs the question, well, what do you do with it? So the city would have a dedicated fund where we would collect the fees, and it would be a fund that would grow over time, and then the city would partner with an affordable housing developer. So rather than having each and every development try to produce 5% within their project boundary, we could, again, partner with an affordable housing developer who could then do a project elsewhere in the city, and the city would be contributing local funds. It wouldn't be coming out of general fund dollars. It wouldn't be direct tax dollars that would be contributing to that affordable housing project, but it would be in lieu fees paid over time by the development community that would grow into a larger amount as time went on. Okay, so this item was heard by the Planning Commission on October 13th of this year, just a few weeks ago. The Planning Commission, after hearing all public testimony, did adopt a Planning Commission resolution recommending that the City Council approve Ordinance 418 and adopt a resolution establishing an in lieu fee. With that, we do have a recommendation that you waive full reading of the ordinance and adopt a resolution establishing that fee. Before you consider that recommendation, myself, Steve Gunnels, the Chief Economist from Placework, who prepared the fee report, is here. Stephen Flower, City Attorney, and of course Will, City Manager, are all available for your questions. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that clear explanation, Kelly. Do we have any public testimony for tonight's hearing? Okay. So Steve, did you want to speak? Steve here to speak?
Would you like to come up and speak? Would you like to come up? I'm not sure that he has prepared remarks, but he does have, is available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm here if you have any questions. This was nice to work on because you already had the inclusionary ordinance. All we had to do was the fee.
Thank you. So I'll open up to, well, actually, I'll close the public testimony and close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion. Would anyone like to, go ahead, John?
Got a question too, but I think, Matt, you can go first.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a couple questions as far as the use of the fee. So once that's built up in this fund, could you explain maybe the process a little bit better as far as who can apply for it, but is there some discretion as far as who's going to approve it, what project that's going to be for, and are there any like time restraints attached to having to use that fund?
So the ordinance is not written with any time constraints. I'm not aware of any time constraints related to the money. I think in theory we could collect the money for a set period, for an indefinite period of time. Regarding discretion on a project, so my gut reaction, I want to say yes. However, it would be subject to state law regarding affordable housing projects. As the council is very well aware, there's a large amount of housing-related legislation that comes out every legislative cycle, and it seems like over time, it seems to chip away little by little at local discretion related to not only housing projects, but specifically affordable housing projects. So to the extent that state law doesn't preempt our ability to be able to bring a project like that to council, yes, staff would definitely bring a project of that nature for your review and approval, again, unless state law preempted us from doing so.
And with these developers, would they have to essentially apply for those funds, or how would they like request that?
Yes, and that actually has happened in the past. We've been approached by affordable housing developers that say, we're really interested in Calimesa, we do a lot of work in the area, and we sure love to do a project with you guys. However, we need some additional local funds to be able to make a project pencil. And at this point in time, we've had to say thanks, but no thanks. We don't have any local funds available. And of course, the council hasn't created any sort of fund outside the context of an affordable housing in lieu fee. So yes, they'd have to approach us. And I guess essentially it would be a little bit of a first come, first serve. If we only had one affordable housing developer that approached us, we would discuss with them, talk about the project, and to the extent that we could, try to, of course, apply our development standards. Again, I'm really kind of acutely aware of state preemption for certain aspects of affordable housing, but to the extent that we could apply our zoning code, we would work with them very closely to make sure that we could apply standards that were important to Calimesa. I imagine at that point we'd probably reach out to council on some sort of an ad hoc basis as well, potentially, to discuss certain design aspects. But in the event that there was more than one developer affordable housing developer that approached us, 2 or 3 said, hey, we heard Calimesa has this in lieu fee and we're really interested, we'd probably have to take another look at how we would select a partner at that point, but we haven't, that hasn't happened yet. So we would kind of cross that bridge when we got there.
All right, thank you.
Good questions. Edgar, did you want to speak?
I got a few. I know Will was able to answer a few through email, but one of my questions was if we can actually increase the $3.45 to $6 just to kind of be ready for forecasting in the future if anything changes. I know one of the things I asked was like for technology and flock cameras, but based on that, we cannot utilize the funds for those kind of things. But is there anything else that we can actually utilize those funds for, like kind of planning for development fees to install technology and flock systems around there to support our first responders. And another thing too, like, are we able to designate those areas for like for seniors, for the low income communities? And my other question is, are we able to put like a shopping center in the first floor, more of an active community, just to kind of bring in that more revenue, more resources within our city and within our community? So any residents that are living within that residence are able to just go downstairs and do their shopping, like a market, even some restaurants and some dine-ins and some coffee shops. What can we do as a city and as a team for our community to bring those things to light? I know I've been to a few different cities and out of state as well too, and I see that a lot. What the cities are doing, they're putting those shopping centers there, and they're having the residents living on the second floor and up. Is that something that we can, talk to the developers to bring that to our city? And
Yeah. So I'll take, I think I heard three main questions there, so I'll take them one at a time. So regarding the fee amount, the recommended fee amount of $3.40 per square foot is based on a gap analysis conducted again by Steve here behind me at PlaceWorks, and it is analysis of the gap needed for affordable housing developers that very commonly will leverage low-income housing tax credits and traditional bank financing. And when they put together their capital stack, there's typically a gap in that amount. And so they come to the city looking for those local funds. The way that this ordinance is written and the purpose of the funds would not be for technology upgrades or other public safety provisions. It would be meant to support planning, design, construction, maybe not right-of-way acquisition, but site acquisition for affordable housing. It would all be related to the construction and delivery of an affordable housing project. So unfortunately, it wouldn't be appropriate to use those funds for flock or other public safety purposes.
Can I add on that? The fee itself, and this is a little background information, one of the reasons that a fee like this has become more and more prevalent is because typically affordable housing had additional revenue sources. So for example, redevelopment agencies. So when redevelopment agencies existed and they got tax increment, 20% of that revenue had to be set aside for affordable housing. So cities would use that as kind of their leverage with other forms of, tax credits and federal grants like HUD grants, things like that. So it's taking this money kind of replaces what would have been available through RDAs. That's just a little bit of background on that. Some of it, yeah. Because it was for some cities, that was a very significant revenue source. As a matter of fact, I think sometimes they had a hard time spending them because they had so much coming in.
So just to put a fine point on that, I wouldn't recommend increasing the fee for public safety purposes, but of course, at the council's discretion, there's opportunity every budget cycle and so forth to allocate funding for those purposes.
And we are planning to also look at this annually for inflation adjustments as well.
And then to answer the second portion of your question, certainly the projects that come forward could be senior affordable housing projects. I would like to note that they wouldn't be limited to senior affordable housing, but again, it kind of depends on who we are approached by in terms of affordable housing developers. Some of them specialize in senior housing, some of them specialize in family developments, or even some are geared towards disabled or veterans. So there are a number of, I'll say, pots of money federally, statewide, and otherwise that sometimes we might have a developer that comes forward looking for a specialized kind of population to utilize their units. This money would not, again, be earmarked. I'll use that term for lack of a better term. It wouldn't be earmarked towards senior, but there's certainly nothing within the ordinance that would preclude a senior housing project. And finally, I guess I have a similar or the same answer for kind of a mixed-use project, which was the final component of your question. Our code does have some allowances for mixed-use development. It's within our mixed-use areas, some of our commercial areas. So to the extent that an affordable housing developer had a landowning partner that, or a just straight fee title purchased a piece of property that was zoned strictly residential, unfortunately, in that circumstance, there wouldn't be an opportunity to explore a mixed-use project because the zoning function would still be in place. However, if they were to be interested in a piece of property that had mixed use or commercial zoning, we could certainly ask. Again, I think, or I know that a lot of these folks that come in and want to develop affordable housing, they specialize in that. I haven't seen a lot of projects where a specialized housing developer partners with a commercial development to create a mixed-use project. I just haven't personally seen that, but that's not to say that it couldn't happen, and we could certainly, if it was the council's direction, we could try to explore that when and if this ordinance is passed and when funds accumulate, and if an affordable housing developer approaches us, we can say, hey, are you interested in maybe looking at a mixed-use project? That's something that we can explore.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you, Steve.
I did have some questions, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, let's see, the in lieu fee. So I take it, and I think I gathered from Will's comments too, that there's precedence for this, that other cities have this fourth option, and they're doing it well, right? And so maybe you can give us some ideas for policy directions on how exactly those policies look. So if I'm understanding this correctly, in lieu of building low-income housing, the developer pays this fee and it goes into a fund, and that fund sits there and it grows until it gets to some critical mass or amount of money, or a developer approaches us, and then we can do a project, right?
Correct.
And so have you seen other cities that whole sort of cycle run its course in other cities through the policy?
Yes.
Are you aware of that? And
Yes, quite a few, actually.
Okay.
I guess one that sticks out to me is the city of Riverside has one kind of down in downtown. It sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb based on their color palette. I probably wouldn't have selected that color palette, but it's like a combination of reds, blacks, and grays, so you kind of see it. It's very stark. But some cities in the area that have in lieu fees are Redlands and Highland, and the city of Riverside, I believe they have one. So there is precedence for having an in lieu fee, and there are cities in our region that implement them. I'm not intimately familiar with all of the policy direction that occurred, to take in the fee and what happened with selection of a partner. That's actually a really good question and something we hadn't thought much about. But again, I imagine it would be first come, first serve, and listen until we had multiple, and then we would think about it again. But yes, there is definitely precedent for having an in lieu fee for cities in our region.
so there is going to be a second reading of this, right? And so maybe
Yes.
before the second reading, if we could
Sure.
hear a little bit more about some of those
Yeah, absolutely.
situations, other cities' policies, and I'd like to take a look at that. Does this money also count toward meeting our state obligations? So as long as it's sitting in the account, does it count toward that, or not until it's built?
No. So another item that was on your agenda on consent this evening was our annual progress report.
Right.
And so every year we have to let the state Office of Planning and Research and State Housing Department of Community Development, we have to check in with them regarding our residential building permits that we issue. They don't care about commercial, they don't care about industrial, institutional. They want to know how many residential units have you received applications for, entitled, issued building permits for, and issued certificates of occupancy for. So they check in with us at every kind of critical milestone in residential development. And it's been really dismal, I'll just say, for the last several years. I have some notes here. So from 2014 to 2017, we didn't issue a single residential building permit, not one. Then JP Ranch, Singleton Heights, and Summerwind all kind of came online concurrently, and we had really high building permit data during the next following year. So we issued 86 units in 2018, 286 units in 2019, 342 permits in 2020, and then after 2020, it started dipping right back down. So we issued 94 units in 2021, 16 units in 2022. 2023, we only issued 12 residential building permits, and every single one of them were ADUs. So I thought that was interesting. We didn't issue a single-family home, apartment, duplex, nothing, all ADUs in 2023. And then in 2024, we issued only four building permits. 3 of those were ADUs and 1 was a single-family home. So unfortunately, having the in lieu fee on the books and even having money in the coffers, it doesn't give us credit with the state. What they care about is actual residential construction. What we can do is say that we've complied with a policy that was built into our 4th cycle housing element, which was that we would have an in lieu fee, an affordable housing program in the city, which we do have. And now this in lieu fee, in theory, again, we'll be able to accumulate funds and actually get those units constructed. So
that is one negative of this in lieu fee policy, right? Is we're not getting credit with the state toward our numbers, right?
Correct.
Until they get built, which could be who knows how long, right? There's no timeline.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
that.
there is some recognition that there is a market. This is market driven, right? And in general, residential building permits are down. I mean, it's not just here. It's a little more pronounced here, but it's down everywhere. And that's more of a reflection of the market in general, not necessarily our market specifically. But again, to Kelly's point, where it really comes down to, and one of the things we've been worried about with the housing element cycles is that by the time the next cycle rolls around, how much are they going to look at this kind of thing critically? But again, we're not going to be alone, right? And so it's just going to be a matter of how the state views that in future housing element cycles. So these reports, it doesn't help us get credit for those, but having the program in place, and basically the city has to try to do what it can do to try to encourage it, right? But short of actually constructing units itself, because we're not developers, that's the kind of things they look for. So
it gives us credibility with HCD if we're doing the things that we said we would do and we can do. Even if the units aren't produced, at the end of the day, it is going to be market driven. This gives us another tool to use down the road when there's enough funds generated. If we were sitting on a stack of funds and not using them, I think we'd lose some credibility.
We would lose credibility.
The fact of the matter is, our housing element says we were going to do this. Here we are doing it. That gives us credibility. Right?
Especially if affordable housing builders were coming to us and we had that money and then we were doing nothing. And then they go, hey, wait a minute, you have this money, but you're not actually using it. It's disingenuous, right? But as long as we're collecting it, and then when the projects or the right projects come along and we're using them, they will certainly look kindly upon that.
Can I follow up with that one, Mayor? So if I'm understanding right, let's say like the multi-use complex, right? Like the retail and then the residence ups. If we move forward with it, then if somebody else comes in, we just want to do low income with no retail, then we can just wait until that retail comes in to move forward with the project? Is that, if I'm understanding that correctly?
Well, it's just a matter of what type of development works with who's approaching you and the right type of product, right? So, for example, you may want to do mixed use along Calamasa Boulevard, right? There's some empty parcels there, and so you're near you're near major transportation. There would be opportunity maybe for public transportation to be developed there with that kind of use. That could be potential for that. But again, because you're building the commercial developments on the ground floor and then building the residential units above them, you probably have to do them in concurrence, right? And usually you'd have 2 developers come together to partner on a project like that, because commercial development usually specializes in commercial. It's a very different specialization, so you would have to have them kind of collaborate on that. But the nice thing about it is, by having a funding source, especially if it gets to a significant amount of money, we probably could have more influence over that process And, the city could, for example, go out and purchase land for that purpose with those funds, and then go do an RFP for potential developers to partner and bid on that. So that is a way that we could get involved. As a matter of fact, during the RDA days, that's kind of how how it was done. Cities did get into the development game. And so that is a possibility down the road if those funds accumulate significantly, especially if you have one of either the future phases of Summerwind or Mesa Verde. If they elect to go in this direction, you're getting in tens of millions of dollars by the time those projects are complete. I mean, again, that's over a 15, 20-year period, but you could get a significant amount of money that could then really be used to do those kind of things. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it definitely does.
If I could just dovetail, just in the last 2 years, I've worked on 3 of these, three affordable housing projects, and each one seems to be its own unique thing. Because of where it's located, its size, who the developer is, and like Kelly said, they all come with a different stack of capital input. Some of it's credit, some of it's private lenders, and there's always that one last piece that the public agency, whether it's the land or if it's just a construction loan, something like that. Every single one is going to be
Development-free credits.
Yeah.
You can do diff credits as well.
all sorts, and they're all kind of unique in how all the pieces fit together and who the developer is and what their expertise is, like Will says. So, we won't know until down the road there's enough funds that makes it sufficient for us to meaningfully contribute to a project, and then how much we contribute will control how much, we get to say about the final product.
Yeah, I definitely like their approach just because it's multi-use, able to designate, and then it's open to everyone to go in and go out for shopping and stuff, instead of just like isolating a low-income community in one corner or between residential areas, because now you're just isolating that area compared to more of what Will was saying, to just open it to everyone and people are just coming in and out. It's just being more transparent, more for the community and more for the residents as well too, to kind of interact with the community itself, especially with the city. That's like my vision of what I see in the perfect world, but of course there's a lot that goes with it behind it as well too. But yeah, I definitely want to see that to come. If you have any recommendations in the future, like in the next ordinance, to bring that along and see how that will look within our city, and some great ideas from both the attorney and our city manager, and then of course leadership.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so with no other discussion, I'd call for the vote on the recommendation of
Well, I'll make a motion that we waive full reading and introduce ordinance number 418 by title only, ordinance to the city of Calamasa approving zone text amendment 25-02, adding in lieu fee payment as an alternative means of compliance to satisfy the city's inclusionary housing ordinance, and number 2, adopt CC Resolution 2025-55, establishing an inclusionary housing in lieu fee amount.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to our business item tonight, number 11, notice of completion for construction of contract for County Line Road Transportation Corridor Improvements Project.
Good evening, Council. So I do have kind of a long presentation tonight, so hang in there with me, please. This is a notice of completion for our contractor that was working on County Line Road. Taking the opportunity to kind of do a little bit of history on the project, for the benefit of the council as well as the public who have lived through long construction progress along County Line Road. Tonight, we have the pleasure of Landon Kern from the city of Yucaipa here to help answer questions, and he's going to give you an update. I don't know if you've noticed, but there was some paving going on before the rains came. He's going to give us an update on that work and when it would be completed. So with that, I have a presentation. All right. With that, doesn't Didn't quite look right, but happened there. All right, well, we'll make do. So I think prior to 2018, we were well aware that there was a need for improving County Line Road. It hadn't been approved in many, many years. The two cities partnered to pursue a grant funding opportunity. Grant funding opportunity was the state's local partnership program that we fit into the criteria related to the grant program. The two cities got together, we prepared an application. In that application, we included match for funds that were required to complete design and pre-construction services and work. And we asked for some construction funding to build the project. That's a key component, as you'll see, from when we were awarded the grant to when we actually started using the grant was a significant period of time, but I wanted to explain that's because we asked for the funds for construction. We were only one of two Riverside County projects that got selected for funding, and we were notified in 2019 that we were selected for funding. Cities, then, once we were notified that we were going to get funding, began design of two different projects. Calamesa's project was the combined intersections where we shared intersections with the city of Yucaipa. And Fifth Street is 100% in Yucaipa. Yucaipa contracted with a different consulting firm to prepare the design for that project. At that time, we started what I refer to as utility coordination. So for the roundabouts, just kind of picture them, the corners would be pulled back to make the roundabout work. Predominantly on the northwest corner, there was always a power pole at each intersection. So we had to coordinate with Southern California Edison to say, hey, move that pole back so we could fit in the roadway improvements. In addition, there were a lot of fire hydrants, water services, and other utilities that needed to be coordinated and moved out of the way of construction of the street improvements. So, as you can see by the calendar that I presented to you, in 2019, we started that work. We also started pursuing right-of-way acquisition. We had 20 parcels that were impacted by the project. I think about half of them were in Yucaipa, half of them were in Calamasa. Turned out that two of them we could not work around and preserve the property, so they became full takes. One was in Yucaipa, one was in Calamasa. The other was just partial takes where we just encroached a little bit into the front yards of properties. We acquired that right-of-way in order to be able to build the project. 2020, we came back to council with an agreement between the two cities to collaborate on construction and the costs associated with construction. I will say that use the word lion's share of costs were related to, or were Yucaipa's costs because of the Fifth Street intersection being 100% in Yucaipa. So it wasn't a 50-50 split. There was a greater percentage in Yucaipa. I didn't touch on 2021. In 2021, we did a right-of-way certification, and we then executed an LPP agreement with the state. The purpose of doing that, we were delayed in doing that because we weren't ready for construction. The clock starts as soon as we entered into this agreement. We had 1 year from when we entered into this agreement to begin construction, or actually get a contractor under contract just to do construction. Otherwise, we would lose the funding. And that's an important point as to maybe some criticism that the public has indicated toward the cities. Not sure why that isn't coming through properly, but that said, 2021, we continued working with Edison on the joint intersections. Calamasa was working on those, and Yucaipa was doing the coordination for Fifth Street. So here's a key component. South Mesa Water Company, the coordination with South Mesa was ongoing up to this time. In 2021, South Mesa came to the city when we were having a coordination meeting with what they thought was good news, which wasn't necessarily good news for us. Reason was they received a $10 million grant from the state of California to replace all of their water facilities along County Line Road. In the same reach, we were doing a roadway improvement project. So that is good news. They were going to come in and replace those, but the problem was we were already on a path to start construction. We went out and built those street improvements, and then they came in and tore up the entire street, build water line improvements. I don't think that would be well received by the public. The first thought was, well, why don't we let them go first and let them build the water line and we will wait, but we couldn't because our grant funding would have then disappeared. So we worked out with South Mesa at this time was an agreement. We said, okay, we will go out, do curbs, sidewalks, get everything ready, and then do some base paving. Our contractor would then leave. You would take over the site and build water system improvements. When your water system improvements and trench patch was completed, we would then come back, finish the street, and do overlays and other improvements related to finishing off the project. That was our idea. That didn't quite fit together the way it was originally planned, and I'll kind of explain why. In 2022, we did enter into an agreement with Roadway. We bid the project and we entered into an agreement. We had to prior to March of 22, otherwise we would lose the funding. So, as I showed in the previous slide, we had 1 year. This is just prior to the 1 year. We waited as long as we could before we entertained a contract. Roadway started their work in April, and the roadway or the pole relocations were not quite finished when they started work at the various intersections. They basically started at Bryant and worked their way to the west. There were still poles and other things that our contractor had to work around, which created some inefficiencies and contract change order claims. As shown on the slide, 5th Street was not completed by the time in June of 2022. It was scheduled for completion in May of 2023. So I think what happened, and Landon can clarify if I get this wrong, is what I think happened was there was a development project that came in on the northwest corner of 5th and County Line that needed power service. So their plans of how to rearrange and relocate poles changed because there was a new demand on the system. Final note that I'm making in 2022 is we had an MOA we brought to council in July of 2022, and in that MOA, it showed that South Mesa was going to start their work in October of that year. 2023, Roadway partially opened the 5th Street roundabout, and they demobilized at that point. The reason they demobilized was they didn't have any other work to do, so we asked them to demobilize to allow Edison to complete its work and South Mesa Water Company to complete their work. So I think I noted in May of 23, that's when Edison was going to start their work in 2022, but they actually didn't start the work until December of 2023. In 2024, Edison does complete the facilities work at 5th Street in March. South Mesa then began its construction in May. So I may note they were supposed to start their work about a year earlier, in October, maybe a half a year earlier, but they were delayed because they had a grant, and getting the grant authorized was delayed working with the state. South Mesa's contractor started on the west end near County Line Lane and County Line Road, started laying their pipe to the east. They finished their work through 3rd Street by December. Excuse me, does that say October? I think it's October. We then had Roadway immediately that same month remobilized to finish the work at the 5th Street and 3rd Street roundabouts. The work was completed in December of 2024. At that point, we had a decision to make about what work was included in roadway scope. So again, they were responsible to completely cap the road, stripe, finish everything, but we made a decision, the two cities did, to not have them do that work for two reasons. One, South Mesa was not done with their water line work, and they were still within the site, so it would prevent our contractor from officially moving forward. Number two was we had to pay increased costs due to delays for pavement overlay. We compared those unit costs to unit costs that the city of Yucaipa had with its annual paving program and found that the unit cost that Yucaipa had under contract was cheaper to have them do the paving, the final paving, rather than our contract. So we ended the contract with Roadway at that time. Between that time and now, we were negotiating contract change orders. So I'm finally down to the last bullet point, which is Yucaipa's work. That did start this month in November. I'm going to ask Landon if he doesn't mind stepping up and giving you kind of an update on that.
Thank you, Mike, and good evening, council and staff. It's been many years of hard work on this very complex project. A project of this nature with the size and the scope is always a challenge, and you introduce many different utilities and their own individual budgets and schedules, and we've really appreciated the coordination with the City of Calimesa on this project. And as Mike introduced, with our annual pavement management program and the timing of the South Mesa Water Company work really wrapping up, we were able to weave this scope into our annual pavement management program. Went out to bid. The low bidder was Mattich, and so we've been fortunate to see them completing a lot of that work in the last several weeks. They started up at Bryant, working their way down towards Fifth, and the weather created some additional delays here in the last week or so. I'm excited to announce, though, that we are anticipating the first week of December, as things kind of dry up, we'll be finishing the final stretch, which will be from the Fifth Street roundabout right here, close to Calimesa Boulevard on the south side. That'll be the final phase of our paving to kind of clean up and finish the paving in this area. The north side of the street will be completed at a later date with the Calimesa Creek Storm Drain project that's coming up. And then the final phase with our contract work will be coming in with Mattich. You may notice there's some temporary markings on the ground with some tabs. That's that phase where we look and make sure the striping's matching up with the final plans. And so we're anticipating the second week of December for the striping and some of the signage that accompanies that striping to be put in place in its permanent condition. With some of the weather delays, we're hearing that may be advanced. We may see that happen sooner, which would be great. I think we've all been very excited to see that take place. So I'll step away for a moment. I'll let Mike finish the update on a very complex and interesting project, and I'll certainly be here with any questions you may have that I can answer from our side.
Thank you, Landon. So I'm just going to go through just a couple of quick slides and explain what the key points of the delays were. I think I've already kind of explained with Edison and South Mesa what caused those delays, but I just have a few more to bring to your attention. One is right-of-way. And Council's very familiar with the fact that we did run into a right-of-way challenge at the southwest corner of 3rd and County Line Road. I just wanted to explain how we got into the dilemma a little bit. It was a project that was going to develop. They're going to tear down the existing store and build a new one. So we had conditioned the project to dedicate the right-of-way we needed for the capital project. Fortunately, they withdrew their application after we were ready to bid the project. So they did not dedicate the right-of-way, and then we had a very difficult time getting a hold of anybody who had authority to even discuss right-of-way acquisition with us. So as council's aware, we had some closed session discussions. I guess I'm not allowed to talk about that, but we had some discussions about right-of-way acquisition with 7-Eleven, and then we were able to get the right-of-way we needed to finish the roundabout at 3rd Street, but no additional right-of-way to do curb, sidewalk, ramps, and driveways. We talked about Edison, we talked about South Mesa. I just wanted to touch on Department of Water Resources, for those who don't know, they have an inland feeder that traverses along Bryant Street and crosses County Line Road. The feeder delivers water to the Beaumont area. There were appurtenances, it was part of their pipeline located at that intersection. We had to get a permit to do that. That permit was very difficult to get, and it did delay some of the construction at Bryant. Just another point, the private property improvements, things like fences, landscaping, driveways, and those things, we had to work with each and every individual property owner on both sides of County Line Road to make sure they were satisfied with the replacement improvements that were being constructed. What we had prior to construction was an edge of pavement that was closer to the center line closer to the center line than when we built the curb gutter and sidewalk. Did not encroach beyond the public right-of-way, but did impact private improvements, the kinds I was describing. We also had some trouble with existing utilities along the corridor. County Line Road is probably well over 100 years, and a lot of utilities are in County Line Road that we just didn't know about, one, but two, the utilities that were there were old and worn out. So when you go in and you provide heavy equipment on the surface of a water line that is of age, it sprung a number of leaks. And the subgrade soil, when it gets wet in Calamasa, is very difficult to compact. In fact, almost impossible without additional work. What I mean by that is once it's saturated, the contractor, no matter how many times he rolls over it, cannot make compaction. So that said, he had to come in and dry out the material and add some additives to help him be able to achieve compaction. Those are reasons that we experienced delays. We did add a little bit of scope changes toward the end of the project. We found that there was a gap between the Fifth Street project that UKIPA was doing and the rest of the project that Calamasa was taking the lead on. So we did add some scope change there that was created delays and cost and added costs. Finally, demobilization, which we've already talked about. So, increased costs, what are they? Well, they are administrative costs with the contractor. Our project was on his books 2.5 years longer than he was anticipating. Construction inefficiencies, when poles are in the way, they cannot move forward with construction as they plan, which created inefficiencies. Subgrade remediation, that's the saturated soil I just mentioned. Labor and material costs have gone up as time marches on, so that added increased costs. And the scope changes, just to highlight what those were, it was base paving and some temporary striping. Cost reductions. So when we get to the numbers, you're going to see that overall we actually came in at a lower cost. Cost reductions were related to, we moved the final paving from this project to the UKIPA project, as Landon and I described. They will finish the striping and signage out there, which was amounts that came back to the city. We did have some decorative fencing around the roundabouts that we decided to delete at this stage. And we did not have to relocate as many water system appurtenances as we originally planned because UKIPA was coming in, or South Mesa was coming in and building their water system and replacing some of those appurtenances, so we didn't have to relocate them. So here are the numbers. Original contract amount is $8.2 million. Council at that time authorized an $800,000 construction contingency for a total authorized amount of just slightly over $9 million. Contract work, and I got to explain this, contract work turned out to be about $6.9 million of what we paid him for contract work. We also had $1.2 million in change orders. The reason some of the contract work went down, besides what I described, those items I described in the previous slide, was also because some of the unit prices for contract work changed. So those were paid as a change order rather than as part of the original contract amounts. So adding everything up, we are just slightly under the original contract amount of around $807 million, and the remaining contract amount would be about $934,000. So all that said, that was the history of our project of, I guess that's 7 years rolled up into about 10, 15 minutes. So tonight, what we were asking council to do is allow us to file a notice of completion for roadway to end our contractual relationship with them. If there are no liens filed against the project, all their subs got paid and all that, there's 35 days for them to file. If nothing is filed within that 35 days, we will release the contract retention, and that will end our relationship with roadway. That said, we're up to questions and responses, and Landon said he would step up and help me with questions and responses.
Who'd like to start?
I'll go. First off, I'd like to commend you both and our cities, our city and the city of Yucaipa. I mean, this was a big project. So many moving parts, and although it didn't run smoothly and perfectly, you guys, we were able to get it to completion, which is fantastic. So great job on that. I also got a lot of great feedback from neighbors and such over the giant speed bump, which really wasn't a speed bump, on Bryant, right? Seeing that gone and the paving, which
It was a dual purpose facility.
Yeah, it was a dual purpose, but you know, it was kind of nice to see. As far as the center of each roundabout, have you guys collaborated yet or come up with any kind of idea on what we're going to do collectively between the two cities on that?
So we haven't gotten to the point where we sit down and talk about what next steps are, but we do plan on landscaping. One of the criteria for roundabouts is you want a visual, you want it to be, whatever we put in there, high enough so you can't see straight through the roundabout. It needs to be some kind of that blocks headlights from the other side so that when a driver's approaching a roundabout, they know, hey, I got to follow this, rather than thinking dark night where it's raining, kind of like this evening. You don't want to think, hey, I just drive straight through. So
Yeah.
we do need to add those facilities.
Okay, but that's something you guys are going to work on at some point?
Yes. Yeah, and as a point of reference, our two roundabouts we've completed in the recent past in Yucaipa, we have improved those with some hardscaping. I think the original contract that went out, the first bid had some landscaping plans with them, so I think it's a great opportunity to get our heads together and look at those again and see how we can bring those back out to bid. As far as the Fifth Street, like Mike mentioned earlier, that particular roundabout is entirely within the city of Yucaipa, so we'll be taking the lead on that design for those improvements. We're working through some of the electrical and the lighting for that now. We're going out to bid with that in the near future probably, but we'll definitely coordinate closely with the Calamasa staff on the landscaping up and down there. Yeah.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's all I had.
So let me just add one thing to Landon's answer was, as he said, we did bid the project twice. When we received the first bids, the bid came in at $13 million. It was way out of our budget. We couldn't build the project at that. So as Landon's describing, we did some value engineering on the project, and one of the things that we sacrificed was the landscaping. As Landon said, all those plans were done and ready to use, but we did have to remove from the contract because we couldn't afford it at the time.
They're not going to be as fancy as Avenue E.
Fancier.
Thank you guys for the detailed presentation. I appreciate all your hard work on it, but I do not have any questions for you guys. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I'll save mine for last. Jeff?
Also, another congratulations on a job well done. It took a bit, but it was worth waiting for. I know I've already driven on it, and many residents have already commented from both cities how they've been looking forward to this for a long time. You know, so thank you for that. I did have one question. I know we had some trouble maybe a year back with some flooding up on Bryant, and we just had some recent rains, a chance to test the finished product. And so how did it hold up? Did it work as it was supposed to, the engineering, and any issues there?
Yeah, great point. I'll let you, well, the world's largest speed hump, as we spoke about earlier, with that being gone with our pavement project that came through, we did take real caution and care to make sure that the grades were as designed, and we did see it. In fact, Mike showed me a video before the meeting this evening, and I got to see some of that happening live over the course of the weekend. It was able to get all the water into the storm drain catch basins that were constructed with this project. I don't think we had any water get around that corner like we saw in the past. And so I think that the new paving is really getting the water where it needs to go into those storm drain infrastructure that was built with this project.
So a couple things when that flooding occurred was one of the catch basins wasn't built yet. The other one was the lip of the gutter was sitting, the pavement was sitting well below the lip of the gutter, so the water was just traveling in the paved area, couldn't get into the gutter and then into the inlet. So all that water bypassed those two inlets and ended up flooding those properties. I did get an email from that resident just before the rains and said, "How confident are you?"
Yeah,
What did you say?
Tropical Storm Hillary was a really significant rain event that we all experienced, and statewide we saw a lot of issues with that, and that was a part of one of the challenges that maybe wasn't highlighted. And there's so many with a project like this, but that was we saw similar rainfall come over the weekend, and the project was able to handle it well.
Excellent. Happy to hear that. Thank you. That concludes my comment.
Edgar?
Yes, I want to say this is a good example of a great partnership between two cities and two great leaders that, you know, at the end of the day, this project has been completed and is almost going to be at the end. And it's a good example for other cities to kind of follow that example, that when two cities are working together, you know, even though the forecast there was some challenges in there, but the project is almost at the end of completion, and I know our community, both Chucaipa and Calle Mesa, are looking forward for this to be completed. One of my other questions was on Fifth Street. I commuted Fifth Street on Chucaipa to go to daycare. In that way, there's this strip right passing the runabout. There's that little small street between that community that it's not completely striped. I think it faded out. Are you guys waiting for it to be restriped once you guys do the turnaround?
On the north side of?
On the Chucaipa side. I'm taking advantage because I've been trying to email, but I'm going to take advantage right now that you're here.
Yeah, of course. So are you speaking about as you leave the roundabout heading north?
Yeah, towards Chucaipa.
I think he's saying there's a street that's.
Like exiting Calle Mesa and you're doing your roundabout on Fifth Street, going to and then now you're entering Chucaipa. There's a strip right there. It's like the lines are completely gone.
Okay.
And then the lines once you pass before you go into the little hill, the lines are back. So it's just, are you guys waiting for it to be restriped once you guys are working on the turnarounds?
Yeah, so the limits of the striping for a contract with Matich will be primarily limited to the roundabouts themselves. Are you closer? I'm having trouble visualizing closer to. Is it closer to when you drop into the Canyon, or?
So you guys last year did you did in your pavement management, you did that little area where it goes into the canyon, right?
It stops at H, right?
It stops at H. So I think you're talking about the area between 5th and H. Is that correct? Because I think that's where the pavement is still older.
Yes, the
And
older
so you're
portion.
talking about like the center striping, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
right after you pass the turnaround.
Yeah.
On that area, in that street.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know where you're talking about now. So I don't believe that's on our annual striping program right now, but I will make a note to add that as I need to check to see where that segment falls with pavement rehab as well. So we don't stripe it and then rehab it. So we'll definitely take a look at that, and I can provide an update to staff on the anticipated timing for that.
Okay, sounds
I
good.
don't believe it's planned to be striped with this phase coming up with Matich, but we can certainly give you an update on
Okay. Yeah, and the only reason why I brought it is it's completely gone. You can't even see it. And then my last question is, by forecasting, of course, the rain and everything that we're seeing on the forecast, when would that whole area be completed so our community can know, it's going to be completed by the end of December or beginning of next year?
Yeah, end of the second week of December, our paving should be completed. That will omit, however, some portions that will be paved later after the storm drain project's completed, that it kind of leaves from the Fifth Street roundabout area and and then along the north side of County Line Road between Fifth Street and Calamasa Boulevard. So that segment will likely have some areas that will need more repair that will be done with the storm drain project. So we're going to keep working closely with staff here, make sure that we don't miss any of those areas and we can get to them as soon as possible. So second week of December, but before Christmas, we should have all the, short of or more weather delays, we should be able to have all the paving done and the striping as well.
So let me just add two things. One is San Antonio Pass Water Agency is out building a water line. Are they going to finish their work before the cap? I didn't think they were.
No, they will be continuing their work into the new year. However, there are areas that they've let us know where they'll need to access that old pipeline that they're rehabilitating to serve as a gravity line for the recharge project down here closer to 4th. We don't anticipate too many impacts to the pavement. They're doing what they can to try to reduce that and doing what they can not to impact the striping as well. However, if there are impacts, they will be as a part of their permit. They have, most of it's in Yucaipa. I think there's some of it in Calamasa. They'll be required to do those repairs if they do cut into the new pavement or impact the striping. So they will be conditioned to repair that.
Okay.
And just the second point on the storm drain project that Landon brought up, we are in final review with Riverside County Flood Control, so we think we'll be bidding that project early next year.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
I only had one comment. I love the roundabouts. I know it was a learning experience for most people, but I think it really does save time. It's been not as painful as most people expected it to be. My only question is, when will we have our street signs back at those intersections? Because I know most of us who live here, you know, you're sitting there like, okay, which street am I on again? Because with the roundabout, it makes it very similar. Do we have an idea about that?
Yes, we're actually working with Calamasa staff on that. With the roadway contract and then our pavement contract, we've been trying to time all of the striping and the signage to go up all at the same time. The street signs, we're going to go ahead and work directly with staff and make sure those get ordered. And as soon as they arrive, we'll get those in place. I know Fifth Street does have them with the size and kind of the design of that one. They look a little bit different. The ones at the other intersections will be your more traditional signs. So I think there's 6 Calamasa standard ones for the Calamasa side, and we've got 6 on the other half. So we're working on that with the public works staff here at Calamasa.
We
as well.
appreciate the collaboration. Thank you for getting it done for public safety reasons and just ability to get through the city. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll open it up for any further comments. Otherwise, we'll follow the recommendation for tonight, this action item.
I'll move to adopt staff's recommendation, if that's sufficient.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Edgar died, I didn't hear you. Okay, so we're good, that's 5-0. Thank you so much, great work. Okay, that brings us now to our final item before city manager comments, and that's mayor and council member reporting of county regional meetings and conferences. And Edgar, we'll start with you.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I actually attended my first community report for the Action Community Action. One of the presenters was actually the grid alternatives, which grid continues to expand clean energy access, completing 4,000 at no cost solar installations for income qualified homeowners. Most of them are seniors. These projects have created major savings for families and reduce emissions equivalent to removing 44,000 cars from the road. In Riverside County alone, the grid has installed 1,300 plus systems, generating over 39 million in long-term savings. They also offer job training programs for adults and youth, helping local residents gain skills in the growing solar industry. That actually catch my eye because they're actually doing trainings for our youth and for anybody. They actually walk out with credits and a certification as well with that training. With the Community Action Partnership with CAP, CAP is moving forward under the leadership of a acting executive director. Her name is Emma, keeping services stable during federal funding challenges, just like everybody else is going through right now. GAP continues to support families through utility assistance, weatherization, cooling, warming centers, and Vita Tax program. Over 14,000 residents used cooling, warming centers, and GAP assisted 11,000 plus households with utility bills as well. By law updates, any new leadership roles were approved to strengthen governance and supported the community representation. So that was my report from the committee that I attended. Thank you.
Okay. I have a question. Is that what you mentioned at the last council meeting? Is that a county project or program?
Yeah, it's actually our, you might be aware, you might be familiar with it. It's the Community Action Partnership with the Riverside County. I'm actually one of the representatives for the District 5.
Okay. Thank you. Jeff?
I did not attend any county or regional meetings, and so that concludes my report.
Thank you. But I see we got reports, summary.
That's right.
Yes.
Right, I should have mentioned that. There is a report.
You're off the hook.
Recap. There we go.
Because I'm off the hook too. Okay, John?
I did not attend any regional meetings, and that will also conclude my report.
Eric?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As far as regional meetings, I had none that I attended, other than to say, on the 5th, attended the town hall with Senator Ochobo. You were there as well.
Yeah.
And why I bring that up is she made it a point to convey to us that we're in attendance that any bills or any legislation that's going to be coming up primarily for our citizens, her office, she's asking for people, to reach out and please convey to the office, your concerns or position on some of these things. So that was one of the strong points I just wanted to reiterate to our public. She's working very hard for us, doing the best she can up there, and it was a very informative meeting. On the 10th, along with you, attended the Cal Cities event in Palm Springs. Not really a whole lot to report, other than there's a new president now, who is the councilwoman from Banning, Colleen Wallace. So stay tuned, I suppose, for any additional on that. And then lastly, today I attended at the Sheriff's Ad Hoc Committee meeting, which John and I are part of that. And not really a whole lot to report from that, just there's more to come. We're looking for some additional information that we can be able to present to council at a different time. So that concludes my reports. And one last thought is just to say to staff, again, thank you for all their hard work. And unfortunately, it sometimes goes unnoticed, but I think we do a good job of recognizing them, but they work tirelessly to do good work for us, so I just wanted to publicly thank them. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mine was short too. I don't know what our election reporting percentage was. Do you have any idea?
I don't, but we can look that up on the county's.
Busy.
Yeah.
It was good to see on the 4th. In Beaumont, I attended the 2nd Street ribbon cutting. 2nd Street is right behind, if you know where the shopping center off Highland, Kohl's and Home Depot. 2nd Street is that street that runs between those businesses, and opening up that road, which is going to help at Pennsylvania Avenue with the grade separation in the next couple of years. That opens up traffic and gives people alternative ways to get in and out of the two cities. So I attended that and represented our city. Attended the town hall meeting with the senator. It was wonderful, and also the division meeting. Veterans Day was a nice event. Our Lions put out flags on Yucaipa and Calimesa. We're always looking to improve that program. It's very patriotic to see the flags on the boulevard. We also had an ad hoc meeting. Councilman Jeff and I attended on Mesa Verde, and so that's information that'll be coming to the public when it's appropriate. I didn't attend my RCTC meeting, but I provided a summary, so you have that information, which is, I think, a great idea with these agencies. But it's a lot to report sometimes. It's a great piece of material to read when you have your opportunity. So I would like to comment on Eric's comments as well. Staff really works well. We have not a lot of people that work here, but we do the most with I think we do better than most cities do. So I'd like to also thank the staff. We're coming up to the holidays. They really shine when it comes to the holidays, and so we're looking forward to that and bringing it forward to our community to share with the happy holiday seasons. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager for his comments and reports.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last Thursday, I attended the San Gorgonio Pass Municipal Advisory Council meeting. The county has these municipal advisory councils throughout the county and that represent unincorporated areas. They're appointed by the area supervisor, and what their role is to basically provide recommendations for the supervisor on projects that affect their area. So they asked me to just come and give an annual report on some of the projects that we have going on in the city that impact their area. It's primarily Cherry Valley and the Banning Bench, the unincorporated areas there. So they were very appreciative of that. There was a project that did draw some ire from the crowd that was there. But I was very impressed with how they handled themselves. As a matter of fact, I complimented them for that when I gave my report because, a lot of times we do see the public interaction sometimes gets a little bit degraded. But it was they were very firm in their stance, but they were very respectful, and it was very much appreciated. The tree lighting is this Friday from 5 to 7. It'll be right here at City Hall. So we are hopeful that everyone can attend. It's a little bit early. But with the holiday season coming up and with all the busyness that happens with that, Tony mentioned the Christmas parade. So with all of that type of activity, we decided to move it up a little bit this year. We talked about doing it that way last year, and I think after having it so close to the parade, we decided it's probably better to bring it forward. And people are starting to put their lights up on their houses anyway, so it seems like that's getting earlier and earlier every year. Finally, I debated whether back and forth whether I wanted to do this. I do want to take a moment to respond to some of the public comments made earlier. I take my integrity and the integrity of the city very seriously. The accusations made tonight are not only inaccurate, but they came as a complete surprise to me. I genuinely don't have any idea where some of these claims were even referred to, but what I do know is that we operate with integrity and transparency. We follow the law, and we're proud of the work that we do on behalf of this community. I also want to thank the entire council for their continued support, and to our staff. I see your commitment every single day, and I want you to know that I have your back just as much as you have mine. With that, I'll complete my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this. Our city, all the past cities, we all have the same problems, good things and bad things. We have all the traffic, a lot of growth, and a lot of dealing with all that comes with that, the construction and what have you. But our city works very well with all the cities in the past. We have regular meetings where we meet the mayor and representatives from the cities from Banning all the way out here. I know we have an election next year and we put it off, and we've had some staff changes in some of the cities, and so we've changed that. But I just wanted to assure our residents that we work very well with the other cities to better our ability to meet our needs, and it goes with Yucaipa as well. We really do work hard to work together and share the goods and share the bads when we have to. But I would just like to say, I'd like to thank staff for their part in working with other staff, because that's what it takes for us to succeed here in Riverside County. And I think we do very well being right off the I-10. So I just wanted to add that. I'm sorry to extend my comments. So that'll conclude tonight's meeting. We have closed session items, and after that, we'll be meeting back here on December 1st. But if you'd like to read the public notice.
Before you do that, I'm sorry, Stephen. December 1st is our next meeting, and I'd like to point out that is a very special day. It will be our 35th birthday. We were incorporated on December 1st, 1990, so it's pretty cool having our council meeting on exactly our 35 years of the day.
Will you have champagne? I'm just kidding.
Bring some bourbon.
We're ready.
Okay. I don't want to build it up too
Ready
much,
for
but
you.
are we ready?
We're ready for
Okay.
you.
All right, the council will now go into closed session to discuss the 3 items listed on the agenda for closed sessions. The first item is conference with labor negotiators, the city negotiators, the city manager, the employee group. The employee group is all city employees, excluding the city manager. The second item and the second and third items are related. Both are existing litigation. The first matter is City of Calamasa versus Everest Reinsurance Company. The second item is Everest Reinsurance Company versus the City of Calamasa. And that is it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone. Drive safely. Good night.
And just to point out, on items B and C, both of those litigation items, Councilmember Garcia does have a conflict and has informed us that he will not be participating in those discussions. He will be recusing himself. Thank you. Oh, and just to clarify, the nature of the conflict is we take our integrity seriously. The nature of the conflict is he owns real estate within 500 feet of the improvements that will be funded by the matters under the funds under dispute in the litigation.